Welcome to the Primal Training podcast. I'm your host, Mamun Benani, a holistic fitness and nutrition coach. The goal of this podcast is to bring ancestral wisdom to the modern world by sharing insightful conversations with experts in movement, nutrition, and spirituality. I really hope to provide practical strategies to enhance your lives. Enjoy. Hey, brother.
Yo, what's happening?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, brother. Appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Good to see you enjoying some sun.
Yeah, I got to do
And
it, man.
yeah, cool stuff. Well, yeah, thanks for accepting my invite and chatting about what you do and all the exciting topics we'll be discussing today. So I was just introducing you. So you're a performance coach. You're a Chinese medicine student, future massage therapist, and you do a lot of other things. So I'll let you introduce to the listeners of who you are and what brought you to this path that you're doing today.
Yeah, it's an awesome introduction. And, to briefly kind of put it, as a youth kid, always growing up playing sports and whatnot, I really became interested in the physical training aspect of that. Decided that's something I wanted to study. Was able to walk on, college football player, D3, real, little scrappy guy running around there. But then really was somebody who just lived in the weight room. Was pretty much, something I always was doing for myself was the physical training part of it to just improve whatever athletic ability I didn't have. And, that's something I really became passionate about. I really still am passionate about. Was able to weasel my way into an internship at a big time college university, and was climbing a little bit of this ladder, this hierarchy of strength and conditioning coaches, and was able to work as a strength and conditioning coach for a number of years for Syracuse University, working with a bunch of teams out there, lacrosse and football and women's lacrosse mostly. That's something, again, I still kind of hang my hat on as part of who I am. Towards the tail end of that, I really began becoming just super interested in health, and not only the performance side of it, but also the balance and the health and the well-being of who we can be. And that was, for me, I just started watching a lot of Paul Chek and reading some alternative minds in the field that we're talking about things that we really didn't learn in our degrees, or at least were not so common in like the weight room environment. And, through that, I really, again, was deciding that if I really wanted to dive into this, I had to take a little bit of a tangent, and was able to step away from the college strength and conditioning field and went into the private sector. So more of just one-on-one personal training or group training, still with athletes and general population. But that allowed me to kind of free up some time to dive into a program of traditional Chinese medicine and massage therapy. And that was a 2-year program that really, if you're talking about, learning things that you've never learned before, or really just trying to expand your perspective of, the bigger picture and really the lens at which the ancient and indigenous theories and philosophies see the body, right? Not necessarily as a machine, but as an organism, as a garden, and even the terminology is completely different. There's less like mechanistic type of words, and it's more about cultivation and growing and planting seeds and allowing things to flourish. And these are the things that I was searching for, and learning a little bit more of the traditional Chinese medicine, and also how that fits into a trade such as massage therapy, which, is a little bit much more yin than the very yang-esque type of training that I was doing. So I guess I had this innate desire to just balance myself out with, being very yanged out, not only in my profession, but also, my lifestyle, and able to balance that with this more nourishing type of way of seeing things, such as, massage therapy, and even, being one connected in more nature, which has allowed me to kind of really expand, my own theories and perspectives of, not only performance but also health and body work in complement to training as well.
Yeah, well, that's such an interesting path, and it's something that I've seen a lot. A lot of people that are more of the alpha type, really young, like bodybuilder type, and all of that, and they turn to their 40s and 50s, and then you see them doing like stretches and yoga, and they realize the more they go young, they need to balance that later. Maybe you did the switch a little bit sooner, but that's super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I woke up a little bit earlier than because Paul Chek is probably like the only guy who was kind of putting out a lot of this information.
Hmm.
Talking about balance, talking about yin and yang, talking about how if you're only living in the weight room or you're only doing certain movement patterns, you're either going to get injured or occur in some way an obstacle. And for him to kind of introduce that terminology to me and live more in accordance with balance and with both polarities of yang and yin, which again, like you said, a lot of the macho, especially like, your mid-20s, that's something that you don't really see as a part of who you are.
Mm.
And there are ways to integrate that without losing, your machismo or your alpha type. I actually would argue that when you complement and integrate both, you actually become more masculine, you become more whole, you become more full of your innate potential.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm so glad I got introduced to these topics like early on in my early 20s. But for you, when you realize this balance and then the need to like get in touch more with your yin, your have more of a balance, did you have what was the seed that was planted? Was there any crisis or something that like a particular moment you said, okay, enough, I need to change the way I do my thing? So what was that thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's an awesome question. I'm going to answer with two things. Well, first is more just physical injury. I think that's something that, for somebody who is always in the gym and always training, and if you're not training correctly, you're either going to run into some type of muscle imbalance or injury or whatever that may be, soft tissue wise, structurally, et cetera, et cetera. So
Mm,
that would be, a wake up call to maybe switch things up in my approach to how I was training my body to incorporate maybe more yin type of things in training and in the gym, but also, mentally, emotionally, these are things that, again, if any trainer can kind of, maybe have an experience of this. Is like when you're living in the gym 10, 12 hours a day, the last thing you want to do is train in the gym. It's such a,
mm,
it's such a draining kind of feeling that now that you're training all these people and all these athletes and whatnot, and now I have to train myself. And it's almost like, because the last thing you want to do is actually train. You actually want to get out and get some fresh air, go for a walk, and not be in that environment. So for me, I began almost like less interested in training because I spent so much time in the weight room, and I never thought I would ever feel that way. It was something that was such a strong part of who I was, to be
mm,
expressing myself physically, and I had these feelings that I didn't really enjoy training anymore, and I think it was because I was unplugged or disconnected from nature. I really didn't have the time, space, or energy to really get my feet rooted on the ground or get outside to some sunlight and even experience fresh air and greens and blues and all different shapes and colors that do dramatic things for our state of our nervous system and our neurochemical levels. That when we're missing this environment, we are imbalanced. We're kind of out of whack, and that's expressed mentally and emotionally as a signal, as a sign that maybe it's time to make some necessary changes in that environment that allows you to kind of drop back down into your body and in yourself, mentally, emotionally as well, and then you
mm,
have more clarity, more enjoyment, and just more stability. That then you look forward to training again. So I think for me it was
mm.
the physical injuries, but also the cloudiness of mind that was resulting from me being way disconnected from nature. And once I really started to value that and plug myself back in, I was able to kind of approach this more stable.
Yeah, and I find that's something really important that's missing in traditional fitness. People getting motivated to go into the gym like 3, 4, 5 times a week and going hard, but they just don't learn how to recharge. And they hit a wall and they stop for 2, 3, 4 months, and then they start again, and then they do it and they do it again. And it's rare to find people that are able to sustain a workout regime that you can do for a long term. And that for me, the most important thing is being able, like I say that sometimes to my client, is like being able to do the same workout until you're 70 or 80 and being able
Exactly.
to carry on and do it all the time. And yeah, that's something that's really, really missing. And that's good that you got to see it early on and apply it to yourself and other people. So that's great.
Yeah, and I love what you said there because that's kind of how I approach what I do now. It's like I want to be able to continue to do what I'm doing well into my 60s, 70s, and 80s, and to feel, feel alive, feel electric, feel vibrant, and I think what the word you said is we're lacking the knowledge and the ability to recharge ourselves, for someone who get into fitness and then all of a sudden they're feeling good, but they kind of lose that initial kind of momentum. But to have some type of routine in place and some type of environment that will allow ourselves to naturally be recharged, allow us to walk back into the workout and be excited and want to do it long term.
Yeah. Well, speaking of recharging, what are the tools that you've learned to recharge?
I could go on for a lot. Recharge. So, I mean, for me, it was just basically unlearning a lot of how I saw or used like energy, even the term energy. And for me to kind of just get a real basic understanding of how life on Earth and biological systems assimilate energy. And we are, just such as that. We are electric. We have potential. We have an energy translation from, our internal environment and the external environment. So for me, it was, all right, what am I doing that is maybe resulting me in feeling, unenergetic or like say low vibrational, low voltage.
Mm-hmm.
And then some certain things that I like to do that to kind of boost that for me that doesn't really have anything to do with caffeine or coffee or energy drinks or pre-workout at all. It's more about, am I electrically connected to my environment? Are my feet on the ground connected to the earth, a couple minutes a day? Am I exposing myself, my skin and my mitochondria to the photon energy of the sun? Am I surrounding myself, hopefully with some type of watery environment so I can also assimilate some of these negative ions in the air and through the water? So, understanding for me just like basic environmental factors that influence our energetic state that allow us to express when it's time to say train or do something very young. But then allow us to, again, to recharge our energy potential through the environment itself. So for me, specific things such as that is like making sure I'm connecting to the earth barefoot, hopefully once or a couple of times a day, outdoors almost as much as I can. And there's also certain things such as even movement in a way. Our muscles and our bones have piezoelectric qualities, which means as you compress and contract, they're generating small electrical charges. So, morning movement or even movement throughout the day, we're expending energy, but we're also generating energy from this piezoelectric effect. And there's many different things you can also do with like hydrotherapy, such as ice tubs and saunas and even, red lights and et cetera that allow this energy translation to occur.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Yeah. I've used many of these in the last years, and it's life changing. It's really life changing, and it's yeah, it's unbelievable how we're not taught about all of this. And but again, a lot of us are learning this the hard way, and I don't think there's any like perfect path or like perfect way to learn these. You just realize how crappy you feel, and then you need to do something about it. So yeah, and like here, you're sitting under the sun, and I know that you've done a lot of research on life health, as you've mentioned to me. So I wanted to know. I know a little bit about it, but I'd like to learn more. And maybe like if you could explain. Well, we all know that we need sun. I know that some of us might be protecting themselves a little bit more than others. But what it is all about? Like, how much do we need sun, and why do we need it that much? And how can you like enhance your life through sun exposition?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for just a simple way to go about this is twofold, right? So, sun is going to allow us our internal mechanisms to be on a specific clock, if you will, right? Our body doesn't really have a watch or has its ability to sense time is through light. And so through our skin and through our eyes, these specific signals that we're receiving at specific times of the day allows our internal mechanisms to be synced in a specific time frame. So in the morning, for example, we are supposed to have a certain amount of release of certain chemicals and an inhibition of others, right? So, for example, when we get outside in the morning and we're exposing our skin and our eyes to morning sunlight, these are vital signs for our these internal mechanisms to begin our day. So the morning light is going to allow our circadian rhythm to be synced, which is going to yoke all of our internal mechanisms to this specific time frame, which is going to allow natural levels of cortisol and neuroepinephrine to be released when the day begins. And the morning light early in the day, almost as early as you can, that allows that to occur naturally without having to outsource more caffeine or whatever that may be. And there should be this natural, I call it like a crescendo of energy that occurs in the beginning of our day. And when we're outdoors, we're receiving this signal, and we are hopefully getting maybe some morning movement. And this is the process that's going to allow our circadian rhythm to be synced. And the same thing goes for the end of the day. You should be hopefully getting the same stimulus through the sunset, and that's like the signal that the day is coming to an end. It's time to retreat. It's time to kind of wind down, slow down, mental, emotional, and even physically. Again, these clocks are designed to have this wave-like pattern, and the sunset is going to allow these mechanisms to occur inversely. So instead of cortisol spiking later in the day, which we really don't want, we want it to decline. Now our melatonin is going to hopefully be released at that time of the day. It's going to give our body the necessary stimulus and signal to hopefully get sleepy in a couple hours. So there's vital times, specifically at different points of the day, that it's very important to get outside, such as the morning and in the evening, which is going to allow our circadian rhythm, to be in this wave-like fashion. But also, in addition to just the rhythm itself, there is this immense energy potential that the sun possesses. And, if we're living indoors, if we're under artificial light and fluorescent light, and we're never outside in the morning or at night or even in the middle of the day, we're losing this immense capacity to assimilate energy through our mitochondria and through our skin, that is just going to allow all of our mechanisms to have more potential energy. So, and the power of the sun is such an important thing for us to live with. I see it as like a nutrient. This is a absolute necessity for us to achieve our highest potential, our most vibrant states. And the sun does that for us, in not only through the assimilation of vitamin D, but also through nitric oxide. So, as our skin is receiving signals such as light, it's allowing our vasodilation effect to occur through nitric oxide, which is going to increase blood flow and nutrient delivery and nutrient flush out waste. So all these absolute, necessities from a health standpoint occur from just being outside. Not only is it the circadian rhythm, but it is the energy potential and also the flow dynamics of our internal systems as well.
Yeah. And so you live in New York State, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So for folks like us, like northern, I guess we're not all the way up in the north, but we're still lacking a lot of sun. How much more difficult it really is. I know that I've been told, I grew up in Morocco. I came here when I was 18, and back there, sun was none of my issues. It was the least concern, and people would hide from it because there's just too much of it. You will find people between 12 and 3 in the afternoon, no one is outside. It's just too hot and too sunny. And then coming here, the exact opposite. Whenever you see it, you try to take advantage of it as much as you can. And I was told when I came here, there's no way around it. You'll have to take supplements, vitamin D and stuff like that. And I just thought that it didn't really make, I don't agree much with really supplementing and chemicals. And I'd rather have something clean coming from my diet. But I knew that people lived here for the longest time we know. And we've been living here for thousands of years, and we've dealt with this climate. So how much more difficult it really is to get enough sun, get all these nutrients, and is it something that you can kind of bypass easily?
That's an awesome question. I think I have very similar opinions about supplementation. You know, there's very conflicting, opinions about vitamin D supplementation. Some say it's an absolute necessity. You know, some say it really shouldn't have to be if you're doing the right things. And I would side in agreement with you that I think the less supplementation that we can actually depend on, the better. And for those living above the 35th parallel, such as me, being in New York, but you in Montreal as well, we are sun deprived, if you will, in the winter time, and there is an effect on us. We're losing this energy potential. What would help us throughout the winter months is this very simple thing that I think goes back to our ancestral indigenous ways of living in a more primal way, is fire, right? So fire is something that was, if we didn't have that in the winter, we're dead, right? Not only does it allow us to be warm, but it is, in a way, the same spectrum of infrared light that such as the sun emits that we're not getting in the winter. So for somebody, if you're living in the northern states or like yourself in upper in Canada, having an experience or being around fire in the winter, maybe almost nightly, that's something where you're almost supplementing light through fire, right? You're supplementing your light through fire, and you're getting infrared A. You're still allowing the warmth to hit your skin. You're still getting the nitric oxide exposure, and that infrared A is penetrating through the skin. It's still influencing the mitochondria in a positive way to still get the same effects of the sun, just without the sun.
That's super interesting. I've never heard about it, and that definitely makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, I could say a personal example as well. Again, being in New York, living in upstate New York for almost a decade, I didn't have access to a fireplace. And then when I moved back closer to where my hometown is, and still was going through my massage therapy program, I was lucky enough to have a fireplace in our apartment. And I didn't really connect the two dots yet, but almost nightly in the winter we would light the fire, and the next day I felt dramatically different. And now that I've learned about how the spectrum of light is emitted through fire and how our body is still simulating that, it just made perfect sense to me.
Wow. I'm really looking forward to go live in the countryside, because here in Montreal you're not allowed to have fire in your home. So I'm excited to try that out.
Yeah, all the better reason to escape the city and get some rural.
Not the only reason, yeah. Not the only reason. Yeah. Well, cool. And to bring me to the next topic, you have an obsession with number 5.
Yeah.
What is it about? I'm trying to. I've seen like your last post. I guess it's related to there's a geometry components and traditional Chinese medicine to it.
Oh yeah.
So that's a big topic, but I'll let you like introduce this kind of this idea or this message that you have.
Yeah. So I mean, I used to be obsessed with the number 3.
Okay.
And then I became obsessed with the number 4, and now it's kind of led me to the number 5. But in regards to 3, I've always understood things as body, mind, spirit, right? And for me, again, attaching myself to the physical body, improving my physical potential, and neglecting the mind and neglecting the spirit was something that I transitioned into. And then, through my fellow coaches and just my own exploration, now the number 4 is something that was resonating more with me. Seeing the body as our physical capabilities, our mental capabilities, our emotional capabilities, and also like our spiritual essence and our spiritual alignment. And I was seeing things such as that in this 4-piece model. But also traditional Chinese medicine, there are 5 elements, right? So you have wood, you have fire, you have earth, you have metal, and you have water. And for me, it was like I was seeing things such as 4, and then I would have to like turn that off to go see things as 5 in my studies of the Chinese stuff. So, and now it kind of all makes sense for me that I have pyramids, around my apartment, just because, again, I really like the shape of it. But, I've recently connected some more dots through again, just my own reading and my own explorations, that, 4 leads to 5, right? So if we have, say, 4 corners of, say, a foundation, that
Mm-hmm.
allows you to build, something extremely, high and potent from that base. So, and again, there's, the perfect example, in Egypt. Those things are beyond time, right? We're just in marvel of how much they've stood the test of time. So,
Right.
if we have a foundation of 4, that generates a 5th, or allows you to build onto that into something higher, which is your 5th experience. So in the Chinese, we have 5 elements, and there's different ways to kind of see them generate themselves, in most through a star-like pattern in a circle.
Mm-hmm.
But I recently was able to read some more about it, that the 5th element in the traditional Chinese elemental theory is wood, and wood is, in different interpretations, can only exist when the other 4 are integrated and built upon. And for me to understand that was like, whoa, that was, a game changer. So if we say are, physically fit and mentally sharp, but we're emotionally a wreck, and we have really no spiritual connection to things, we don't have that base, and we're really not achieving that say 5th tier, or that 5th element. And if and when we can start to check all 4 boxes, now we have this foundation to build higher from. And through the interpretation of wood is expansive growth, springtime, flourishment, life, being able to bend and be flexible towards a specific goal. These are all things that kind of make sense when you see it such as that, as, having a strong foundation, building upon, and then growing upward and onward into a better being, if you will.
Hmm. Interesting. Do you feel that there is a blockage, or like a wall that people hit in this kind of journey towards the wood?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the most difficult, just in our society, is our ability to integrate and initiate our emotions. That's something we're really not taught, or is in any way a part of, normal society, is really what emotions are. What are they trying to tell us? Where do they come from? And seeing them as positive and negative, which in reality they just are. We kind of assign them as positive and negative, because they all bring a message to be comprehended, even the quote negative ones.
Hmm.
So I would say that, if there is an obstacle for somebody, you're probably gonna reach the first, like, real tough obstacle with your emotions. And until you can really integrate this side of you, learn from them, and sit well with the good and the bad, you're kind of just running into the same wall. So to being able to understand your emotions, integrate your emotions, and specifically learn what they're exactly trying to tell you, and then actually, put the foot down and put the rubber to when the rubber meets the road, and do it. That's almost, in a way, life changing. I think that's, if you can just give somebody some simple tactics such as that, their navigation through life itself is much clearer.
Hmm. Yeah, we really don't take the time to listen, I think, and listen to these little signals. And maybe you're thinking the same thing, but there's just too much noise out there,
Yeah.
and it's really impossible for people to get any clue on what's going on, whether in their body or their environments, and just like a rat race.
Mm.
But it's life changing to
Yeah,
take this moment and
absolutely. I would
yeah.
also add too that your emotional domain or capability is attributed to the water element. And if you could kind of envision how water behaves, it's very it's always moving. It's always seeking, the lowest point. It's flowing.
Mm,
It's hopefully never stagnant. And that's our emotions. Our emotions kind of are designed to flow through us and not be, held onto in a way, or have any stagnation. So if we can almost see all of our emotions, happiness, fear, anger, joy, love, hopefully not apathy, but maybe more empathy, and allowing these feelings to act such as water and, exist and feel good, but comprehend, but then they move through and then they pass on. And then we're back to hopefully, our normal state. So, it's never, too high or too low. You kind of want to be in this wave, and be in the middle, but trending towards a specific direction in health and vibrant being.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, I was gonna mention too, like, for me, it was a long journey to get to know, I mean, take the time to listen, get to know to my emotions, and act based on them rather than just all the noise that's going on. And it was for me the hard way. I don't know, for many people it is as well. And once I started taking decision based on them and listening and really try to balance between the two brains, my life has been so much better in many
Yeah.
ways. And and I came as someone, like, before getting in touch really with these emotions, I was like science based, really rational. I went to engineering, and for me, like, there was no way I could even consider that. Although I was like a little bit more intuitive as a child. But what would be your advice for someone who's like a little bit more left brain, like into science, and they won't be able to take the time really um, to sit and listen? Like, what maybe like some tools, like easy tools they can get started. What would you tell them?
Hmm. Yeah, that's awesome because I've seen that specific scenario as something to a gap to be bridged, between like the left brain, real science oriented person, and the other side, which I kind of side on, is the very like free kind of abstract thinker, flowy type of person. And in reality, we don't really want to be so dominant in one or the other. We have to have a relationship, almost in a way that there are. This is kind of crazy to say this, but we almost have two distinct personalities and two distinct versions of ourselves. We
Mm-hmm.
have this very left brain, logos type of way of thinking, who wants to create order and structure on everything. But we have this other, very patho kind of right hemisphere, very, very yin, if you will. So until you can kind of integrate and balance and establish a relationship, a communion between, these two sides of you, you're only seeing and operating through one lens.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times to use that lens, and there's times to use the other lens. There's time to use the other side of your mind, and I call it yin mind. So it's an example of two. It's like meditation, right? So the whole point of meditation is to be present and be still, and to empty your mind, to create almost like this no mind. And there's a reason why meditation is such a powerful tool for us in our lifestyle now. It's because we're so left brain, we're so busy mind, we're so monkey mind. Our mind, it really rarely has the chance to kind of shut off and just unplug and just be still and empty and hollow
Mm-hmm.
out. So meditation is like, in a micro sense, allowing you to create the relationship between the science left brain, logos, structure oriented, with the more flowy, passive, empty, artistic side of your right brain, and ultimately allows that relationship to begin and develop. And then if you kind of extrapolate that over, like, even your whole day or your whole week or your whole month or your whole year or even your whole life, it's like, okay, now I have the ability to go between when it is time to go left brain, or when it is time to go right brain, when it is to lean on your strengths with science and engineering, like such as yourself, or to trust like your intuitive sense, your heart, your emotions, your feelings. Like, these are literally body, visceral sensations that occur that go way beyond language, right? They go beyond left brain. They enter this other side of us that we have to understand and comprehend, which goes beyond words. But when we can start to
Mm.
have this relationship, we have now more of a whole, a more of a communion, more of a better approach to existing.
Oh yeah, I can totally see this, how important this balance is. And like one of the most people that I admire, and I'm not going to note anyone in particular, but some of the people that I admire have this balance, and you can see them. Like, for example, they would be uh, having mystical experiences and doing all this meditation and all of that, but at the same time, they're riding, I don't know, their motorcycle and going on a weekend, and they like life, and they like physical things, and they'd be like wearing this new watch that they like and they enjoy it. And I just love this balance where you can enjoy life as it is and at the same time be out there. And sometimes what happens when you're too much in this yang, physical, material, and just doing all these things, you don't know even anymore why you're doing these. You might have
Mm,
the biggest house, the biggest car, that you have no idea what you're doing here. And then when you go to the extreme opposite side, well, you might be just talking to yourself in the street, and people think you're a fool. And and having this balance makes people complete.
exactly. Yeah, I have a saying, balance is harmony at rest. Harmony is balance in motion. And in life, there is a rhythm, and in rhythm, there is a life. So, almost experiencing and seeing things as these micro waves and these large mega waves. And that is life itself. Our heartbeat goes boom, 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 right? So that's the smallest thing that you can observe, but there are many larger experience that can be seen in this balancing act, such as yang, such as yin. And there's a reason why these symbols in Chinese medicine and the yin yang symbol is thousands and thousands and thousands of years old and ancient. And if you can just dive into these a little bit, your perspective of kind of understanding things resembles this polarity, resembles that there are times to go. I call it like go time, and then there's no time. There's time to be still and rest and recuperate.
Yeah, well, that's great. I'm really digging this. Um, so yeah, I think it's time for us to start wrapping up. I'm really enjoying this conversation, but we might have like other parts for sure.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So one of the questions I'm going to ask you. So when you woke up this morning, was there something you were grateful for?
Mm.
What would it be?
Yeah, grateful. I mean, that's something I try to do each morning. When I wake up in the morning, I have my little routine that I do outside. Just some morning light and some light movement. And then I go cook a little breakfast meal. And before I eat that meal, I have a little mantra prayer. And then I finish with some gratefulness. And that's something that's part of, something I do on a daily basis. And it really can, just again, reorient ourselves that, sometimes we're on the right path. Things may not be, immediately returned on our end or felt, day to day, every single day. But just to kind of unplug from that and to experience and almost count, what you are grateful for allows us to see a bigger picture. For me, and it was such as that, is that I feel for me, it's something that I'm really starting to embody who I am and really not hiding, who and what I am anymore. Something
Mm,
that is, at one point was seen as like just the guy who was in the weight room and the jock and the trainer and whatnot. And it's like, yes, that's part of who I am, but I am an explorer. I am somebody who is an abstract thinker, and a little bit of an artist in there. And, complementing and creating wholeness between those is something that I'm feel like I'm, trusting and allowing to happen naturally. And, just the ability to kind of connect and share and speak on these platforms and connect with people, even in the last couple of years, or at least the last past year, was something that is shaped and continues to shape my life for the better. So I'm definitely grateful for that as well.
that's great. Just the complexity of who you are and all different aspects. And there was no bad or good times in your life. They're just part of you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's great. And very last question. So what would be your best mistake you've ever done? Not the worst, but your best. Or maybe
Best.
they're the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah. I would say, just best mistake, going, completely flat broke, I think is a really valuable, you know, visceral experience to be felt. It's somebody that, if anybody has experienced that, it is a very difficult thing to feel, that you are, you're in the pit, like, the Dark Knight, when he's in the pit and he's got nowhere to go but upward. And that's
Mm,
something for me. It's like, yes, it was a result of all these decisions that led me here. And it's time to learn from those decisions, so I don't end up here again. And what can I learn from that experience? Who was I maybe shutting, or trying to eliminate from my life, and resist having difficult conversations? Time
mm-hmm.
to step forward and have those, and stop again to just really, be vulnerable. And when you need help, you got to ask for help, and allow that to allow yourself to learn your way up, learn yourself out of that hole.
Yeah, same experience here, and it's such a scary experience, but at the same time, there's a saying, when you have nothing to, well, maybe it's not a saying, but I just think that the best feeling is when you have nothing to lose, and then that's where you take the best decisions, and then you just do what you love, and yeah, as
Yeah,
scary it
yeah,
is, it's such a freeing experience.
yeah. The man who's got nothing to lose and is a dangerous man.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, Matthew, I really, really enjoyed talking to you. We'll stay in touch for more things, and for all of you guys who were here, thank you. And in 2 weeks, we're gonna have another episode.
All righty.
All
Thank you.
right, thanks, man. Take care.
All right.